molۆn labe, lit come and take, is a classical expression of defiance reportedly spoken by King Leonidas I in response to the Persian army's demand that the Greeks surrender their weapons at the Battle of Thermopylae. It is an exemplary use of a laconic phrase. Grammar: the first word, I1/4 I 1/2 molۆn, is the aorist active participle of the Greek verb I squared I floron I permil blaskar to come, meaning having come. The roots is evidently io, so that I squared I floron I permil is apparently a contraction for I1/4 I floron I permil. The form I plus or minus I squared I labe is the aorist active imperative of the verb I plus or minus I1/4 I squared I 1/2 I permil lambana, translated as you take with an emphasis since it is in the imperative form. That is to say, it is better represented in English as take. The two words function together in a grammatical structure called the circumstantial participle. Where English would put two main verbs into independent clauses joined by a conjunction, come and take, a strategy sometimes called paratactic, ancient Greek, which is far richer in participles, subordinates one to the other, a strategy called hypertactic, coming, take. The first action is expressed with a participle with adverbial force. In this structure, the participle gives some circumstance attendant on the main verb. The aorist participle may be used where the action is completed, called the perfective aspect. That is, the action of the participle occurs before that of the main verb. Thus the Greek provides a nuance not seen in English translation, making clear that the coming must precede the taking. The latter I plus or minus I squared I is in second person singular, and therefore is not being spoken to a large group of people, but rather to an individual. King Leonidas I of Sparta spoke directly to Xerxes I personally, and not to the Persians en masse. While English normally requires an explicit object in a transitive imperative construction, ancient Greek does not. The object them is understood from context. History: the phrase was reportedly the defiant response of King Leonidas I of Sparta to Xerxes I of Persia when Xerxes demanded that the Greeks lay down their arms and surrender. This was at the onset of the Battle of Thermopylae. Instead, the Greeks held Thermopylae for 3 days. Although the Greek contingent was defeated, they inflicted serious damage on the Persian army. Most importantly, this delayed the Persians' progress to Athens, providing sufficient time for the city's evacuation to the island of Salamis. Though a tactical defeat, Thermopylae served as a strategic and moral victory, inspiring the Greek forces to crush the Persians at the Battle of Salamis later the same year and the Battle of Plataea 1 year later. The source for this quotation is Plutarch, Apothemata Laconica, 51.11. This work by Plutarch is included among the Moralia, a collection of works attributed to him but outside the collection of his most famous works, the Parallel Lives. Modern usage: molۆn labe has been repeated by many later generals and politicians in order to express an army's or nation's determination not to surrender. The motto IRIBIIRI is on the emblem of the Greek First Army Corps, and is also the motto of United States Special Operations Command Central. The expression "come and take it" was a slogan in the Texas Revolution. Molۆn labe has been used once again in Greek history, on March 3, 1957 during a battle in Cyprus between members of the EOKA organization and the British Army. After someone had betrayed his location, the British forces surrounded the secret hideout of the second-in-command of EOKA, Grigoris Ironshai, near the Machaerus Monastery. Inside the hideout were Ironshai and 4 of his followers. Realizing he was outnumbered, Ironshai ordered them to surrender themselves whilst he barricaded himself for a fight to the death. The British asked Ironshai to come out and surrender. He replied with the phrase molۆn labe, imitating the ancient Spartans. Unable to get him out, and after sustaining casualties, the British set fire to the hideout, and he was burnt alive. The British buried his body in the yard of the Central Jail of Lefkosia, where it lies today. In the United States of America, both the original Greek phrase and its English translation are often heard from pro-Second Amendment activists as a defense of the right to keep and bear arms. It began to appear on websites in the late 1990s and early 2000s. In the Second Amendment or firearms freedom context, The phrase expresses the notion that the person uttering the phrase is a strong believer in these ideals and will not surrender their firearms to anyone, especially to governmental authority. Challenge coins similar to those used by military service members have been created with the molۆn labe text and firearm images. In college football, the Michigan State Spartans football team wore alternate jerseys featuring the phrase in their 2011 rivalry game with the Michigan Wolverines. See also, From My Cold, Dead Hands, Anthony McAuliffe, They Shall Not Pass, references.